I'm Sally Wolf, Chair of the Williamsburg Area Arts Commission. I'm here to introduce a brand new grant submission form that all grant applicants will use beginning this year, 2016. What's new about the form? 1, the form has been completely reorganized, which makes it easier for you to fill out and for us to review. Everything you need to complete the form is now included in a single document, so that you don't have to download anything else from our website to complete your grant submission. 2, you will complete the form on your computer as a PDF form, not a Word document. 3, your responses will be limited to the number of words we have specified. The word limit lets you be concise and lets the commissioners more easily evaluate your responses. Aside from some items you may choose to attach, as indicated in our checklist, all of your work will be done within this document. 4, you will not only email this document to the Commission as described on page 1, you will also print out everything as you always have and submit 10 hard copies to us. Should you have questions, please contact your Arts Commission liaison. We will show contact information at the end of this program. Next, Arts Commissioner Patricia Rubline will explain the written portion of the grant application and what we are looking for there. Then Commissioner Tim Cavanis will describe the financial part of the application. We thank you not only for your interest in the local arts, but also for your dedication to making art and art education available to everyone in the Williamsburg area.
While we're talking about grant applications, we're going to talk a lot about goals and objectives. The Commission also has goals and objectives. And what we intend to do here is to clarify the Commission's expectations of what we like to see in a proposal, and define a method of how to answer the form requests to best illustrate your organization's plans. Grant writing, often in just the mention of the phrase, can inspire an immediate case of writer's block in many individuals. But with the appropriate amount of planning and research ahead of time, it really isn't hard, and it's very important. Use the grant to tell us about your work. This is an opportunity to sell your organization to the Commission. That should be fun. The most important part of a grant request is planning. First, remember that application for a public grant is different than making an application for funds to private corporations and foundations. Municipal governments have identified a need to support non-governmental organizations. It's good to remember that if you are funded, you are receiving public dollars and are serving a public need. The Commission makes a great effort to assure that proposals for public funds provide services that benefit our broad community. Let's look at planning for your project. The grant application form is your first point of reference in structuring your proposal. Read through the entire form before you do anything else. Begin with the cover letter, advising you to review the package and get familiar with all of the guidelines. This will begin an organized process for your request. On page 3, the form provides an application submission checklist. Examine this list along with the rest of the form thoroughly before you begin to write. Be cognizant of the required information, including what attachments are needed, whose signatures will be required, all financial information needed, what supporting documents will you have to provide, and pay attention to the deadline for submission. It's actually a good idea to assemble your attachments ahead of time. This makes good boilerplate files for use in your grant requests. The attachments required are typical items requested by most grant funding agencies. Examples in the list especially to note are these. Use only the current application form on the Commission's website. Conform to the word count where it is required, and be sure that your proposal is printed on a one-sided format and follows style of type guidelines. On page 5, we ask for your organization's mission statement. We ask for this for several reasons, but first, it introduces your organization to the Commission. Also, your mission statement should demonstrate knowledge to support your planned project and your organizational capacity to achieve it. We need to be clear that you are qualified and capable of doing what you propose. Be sure to introduce your organization with substance and in clear, concise language. The grant form always allows you to do this through your organizational mission statement. This will include your scope of work, how you satisfy a community need, and the impact on your audience, the steps that happen to meet your goals. Brag a little. You will want to demonstrate how your request for what you want to do relates to your mission. An example might be, our organization is dedicated to preservation or the heritage of some historical event, maybe Baroque music, maybe dance, with the Williamsburg community, and it serves membership of all ages, races, etc. And then an explanation of how you demonstrate your qualifications. Also on page 5, we ask if your organization has a strategic plan. You will answer yes or no to this question. If yes, it will be most helpful here for us to tell about your long-range goals. Where do you want your organization to be in the next few years? In your grant plan summary on page 6, discuss here your goals and objectives. Your goals tell the Commission what it is you ultimately hope to achieve with your project. An objective is an action that has to happen to achieve that goal. A goal is the end, and the objective is the means. These two are generally written together. Tell us what goals and objectives you plan to realize in the grant year of your request. In section D, specifically identify how your grant funds will be used. In section E, provide the uniqueness or the demand for your offerings. Maybe you are the only group within many miles to offer something, like ethnic music or a specific kind of art. In section F, we have funding goals. We would like to know how you will evaluate success. These are your outcomes, your end point. Activities and outcomes are codependent, so you will present them in proximity to one another. It is most important to research before writing. The most important part of your grant is evidence of prior research for your project and setting your goals of service beyond just acquiring additional revenue. Be familiar with the activities already being funded by the Commission. Be realistic about the amount of funding you're requesting. This information is available on the Commission's website to help you gain familiarity with other grants to other organizations. In section J, we have this all-important word called promotion, and everyone responds by saying we can't afford it. But it is important to all grantees' operations to promote what you do. Who visits, who participates, account for the numbers. Be aware of competition and how it relates to demography. Do you duplicate audiences, or have you identified a new market for your work? You will want to address here geographic, social, and organizational diversity. In writing the proposal, be clear about how your project fits Commission guidelines for funding. For example, do you charge dues? Do you hold private meetings? Are they closed to the public? This is information that we need. Here are some helpful tips. Make your statements easy for the Commission to recognize the points that are important. Remember that we are reading and evaluating many requests. How will yours stand out as a request with merit? Articulate your plan by telling the facts. Don't interpret them for us. As follows. This is what we do. This project is how we plan to support it, and public grant support will meet the following segments of the community. It is helpful for the Commission to understand why you have chosen the manner you have to address your project. In requesting clarity, we want you to use logic, no passion, to make your case. Rather than tell us that you're making the community a better place to live, we would rather you articulate how your programs make available an important activity to an important segment of the community. Write in an active voice. Avoid forms of the phrase to be. Tell the facts. And be specific in a way that builds your case, like speaking. No Hemingway is needed. Write for a reader's world. Municipal funds relate to the community. Your project should serve a civic need that meets non-government function. Your project should reflect a policy tool to improve communities' arts and culture. Proofread carefully and double-check the list of requirements that you might need to include, and double-check all of your attachments, and don't forget to sign. Tips in determining results for a successful proposal might be, after reading, you should feel that commissioners will be clear about your intent and be able to convey to another person what you are trying to do. And we should be able to recognize how you will accomplish the way you will go about it and why it's necessary or important in our community. As you examine accountability for your project, you will define what occurs because of the project's steps. These will be noted in sections I, K, and L. Proof of worth is shown through attendance, participation, both audience and performers or artists. Successes. Dancers have gone on to professional careers, or flutists have gone to Juilliard. Steps that occur to meet the goals are part of planning. This has to do with results, and we want to know, do they achieve the desired impact? Examples of those steps could be expanded staff, additional performances, or classes, or the chance to bring in special guests. What occurred because of this project's steps, such as more detailed training, a publication, or an expanded audience? Show results that we can measure. Show what's behind the numbers in your budget. Measurement is evaluation. It is especially important to note in your grant proposal that your proposed project relates to your organization's mission and vice versa. Be sure to write a budget that includes your project. On that note of budget, I turn the discussion over to Commissioner Cavanis, who will discuss finance and budget in more detail.
I'm Tim Cavanis, and I'm going to review the financial portion of the grant application document. Before I get into the forms, a little background on numbers. Over the last 3 years, requests for grants have totaled over $750,000. We have had $400,000 to grant. In the last cycle, 37 requests were made, and we were able to fund 35 of those requests. The largest grant was for $15,000, and the smallest one was for $450. The percent of grant requests funded ranges from 100% for one organization to 2.5% for the smallest grant request made during the year. We ask that you make your grant request reasonable. A request for $30,000 from an organization is not a realistic ask when there are more than 35 organizations that will be making and asking for grant requests. The document has been revised this year to include all the required pages in one package. Many of your organizations operate on a calendar year. The city and county operate on a fiscal year that is July 1 to June 30th. The commission operates on a fiscal year as we are funded by the city and the county. Your grant application financials must be submitted on a fiscal year basis. A little more work, but it keeps all organizations on equal footings. The financials are a means for the commission to know and see that each organization is financially viable and your organization is for real. The first page of the financials, titled Organization and Project Budget, is the revenue or income section. Where does your funding come from? There are 4 columns across the top of the page on both the revenue and the expense pages. The first column is actual last fiscal year. What did your organization spend last year? The second column is the estimated current fiscal year. What is your current year budget? And the third column is the next fiscal year. This is your proposed budget. This is what your application is based on. The fourth column, proposed budget, a project budget. If you're proposing an individual activity or specific project for funding, then column 4, project budget, is used. Some organizations request funds for ongoing operations and will not use the project column. Other organizations will identify a new activity or project that is unique to their organization, and they will make a compelling argument for funding for that project. Looking at the revenue page, item A, contributions. For example, let's use the Williamsburg Area Arts Commission grant line. Last year, the organization had $1,000 in their budget from their grant. This current year, their grant was for $1,100. The next fiscal year is what their grant request is for, and it's $1,500. Of that $1,500, they have identified one item that will be a specific project or activity, and that is detailed as $400 for the year. As you look down the revenue items, you will see there's opportunity there to list other grants that you have applied for or received. You'll have a chance for individual contributions, and what about corporate contributions to be detailed. Program-generated revenue may be revenue as a result of classes that the organization held. Other profits from fundraising reflects activities or fundraisers that you put on in order to raise operating funds for the organization. And then last items are the in-kind contributions, where goods and services and space that someone has donated or provided to you at no cost to you is listed. It is not possible to list all categories of revenue and expenses on one page. So we have added a supplemental form for revenue and expenses that you can utilize. The third page of the financials is expenses. It is organized in the same format as the revenue. You'll see 4 columns: the last, the estimated current, the estimated next, and the project. Looking at the expense sheet, you'll see the first item, the first category there is salaries. That should reflect any staff or part-time positions or any consultants that may be utilized. The non-personnel category is really a catch-all, and it identifies all other expenses that may show up in your ongoing operations. We start out with office rent and utilities. You'll see postage. You'll see repairs and maintenance, facility rentals, even right on down to the last expenses that may be involved in maintaining your incorporation within Virginia or your 501c3 application. We now have a handle on revenue and expenses. So tell us about your overall financial position, the balance sheet. Our simplified balance sheet will work well and adequately for most organizations. There are other organizations that have endowments or loans on facilities, and they may have accounting firms or bookkeeping firms that produce a balance sheet for them, and they are perfectly acceptable to substitute that for our simplified balance sheet. We want to know and we want to see that you're a solvent organization. All three sections of these financials must be submitted. You're allowed to submit additional financial information if that will better tell your story. All right, to wrap up, sign the application, submit 10 hard copies, unbound, revisit the checklist, and submit 1 copy digitally, either by email or on a CD. We want to help you provide the information that is needed to make a sound and fair decision as we compare your request to all the other arts organizations in our community. We're attempting to get the most bang for the taxpayer's dollar and help your organization meet your mission and objectives. We believe the new grant application will make the process more efficient. Questions? Please contact your liaison or the City Economic Development Office. Thank you.